China might actually be a better place to live than the UK or the US.
I think this kind of comment is really funny. What I don't get is why there are Chinese trying to live in USA.
China is what people think Japan is like.
Hello amazing viewer, delighted to have you once more at Comfort for Life. I bring to you compilations of TikTok and Red Note videos for educational purposes. If you are new here, consider subscribing, and to my returning viewers, I love and appreciate you. Thank you so much for keeping it up here. You guys are the real MVPs. Now, should we call this a shift? I know you got questions. Why do Chinese leave China and live in the United States? But let's put that question to rest for now. But enjoy this compilation. There's a lot to learn from this. Like the video for recommendation, and let's unpack this.
China has to be one of the most peaceful countries to live in. Let me give you one example. I'm riding to the gym today with no headphones on. Probably one of the first times I've done this. I'm riding to the gym, no headphones on. I'm taking in all the scenery. I'm like, why isn't there any noise? I can't hear nothing. It's like I'm literally riding through a library. Everybody's minding their own business. All the cars are electric, so they're not making noise. The buildings aren't loud like you hear in New York. I'm just legit riding my bike, peaceful as can be. No one's talking, no one's screaming. And it just made me realize today, like, how peaceful life is over here. I just tried to make a video about this 5 minutes ago and TikTok didn't let me save it, so here I'm gonna try it again. But I think nowadays, China's getting put on the map more than ever. We've always heard China has been super futuristic, super clean. You know, we've always heard these good things about it. But as of lately, as more and more influencers are coming here, they're showing you what China is truly like. And it's amazing. Like, I'm a living testimony of what life is actually like out here, right? I'll post what life is here. I won't sugarcoat it. I won't fake things. I'll show you how it actually is. And I love it. I don't plan to move back to the States. My boys ask me all the time, yo, when are you coming back? Bro, this and that. I'm like, bro, I'm staying over here as long as I can. I love it here. But aside from chasing the American dream that the whole world is infatuated with, China has the schools, China has cleanliness, the safety, the futuristic technology. Everything is here. And it's been underrated for so many years, but now I think people are starting to wake up. The world is starting to realize, wow, China is the place to live. It's the place to be. It's the place to visit. And you've seen it all over my TikTok, all over my For You page, is people coming to China and experiencing life out here. It just sucks it's taken this long because I've realized it for a while now. I just actually haven't made the move out here up until recently. I don't know if this is just a Western thing or if it's like a universal thing, but as humans, when you grow up in a certain country, you almost feel the need to live there your entire life. And that's far from the truth, because when I came to China and I realized you can have a life internationally, I was shook. And I'm an advocate to anybody who's grown up in their country their entire life, try it overseas. Yes, I know it's very hard. It's super, super hard. There's a lot of intangibles that need to happen in order for you to live overseas. I get that. But if you can make it happen, I promise you, you're not going to regret it. But seriously, as humans, we need to get out of that way of thinking of living and staying in the country that we've always grown up in, because the world is much bigger than that. And I advocate for coming to China because I love China so much and life is good over here, you know? But that's it. I just want you guys to know that. I love you guys. Be safe. Peace.
This is probably the most unpopular opinion you will hear all day, but China is what people think Japan is like. Places like Japan, Thailand, they're all amazing, but you don't need a visa to go there. You can just go just because you have an American passport. Versus China, you need to get a visa, even though this year they did offer the transit-free visa for Americans for up to 10 days. China wasn't as accessible to get to, which is the reason why there's lack of content on social media about China. I was able to stay at a top-tier 5-star luxury hotel for $120 a night. There are literally 24-hour spas in China where you can go in, stay for the whole entire 24 hours, get massages, relax, sleep. And on top of that, buffets that offers items like king crab. I got an 80-minute massage for $16. And just wait until you see the skylines in Shanghai or Cyberpunk City in Chongqing, because New York never. And my suggestion to you would be to go visit China while you still can before everyone realizes how amazing China is and drive the prices up.
Every country should take a course in public relations from the United States. Just look at how brilliantly they marketed the American dream to the entire world and, of course, to their own citizens. And you know who definitely followed America's playbook? Japan. Because when you think of Japan, you probably think of Hello Kitty and anime, right? Not the war crimes and atrocities they committed during their imperial times and World War II. It's all good marketing. Now, I live in Russia, and I know what you're already thinking. Bears on the streets, vodka for breakfast, gray, ugly buildings. And while of course I have a pet bear, this is not the true image of Russia. This is why I started my blog, because I want people to see the truth. I don't want them to get an image of Russia from a Hollywood movie that tries to make Russia look bad to make themselves look good. Yeah, maybe Russia doesn't have Hello Kitty, but we have Cheburashka. Okay, and he's the best. So let's stop believing anime and Hollywood and start believing our own eyes.
America is overrated.
Can you explain?
People go to America to chase the American dream, but in fact, it's all a myth and propaganda. It's an American nightmare, if you will.
Do you prefer Canada?
No.
Where do you prefer?
Honestly, I think finding any place has its pros and cons, but finding genuine community really makes a city or a place what it is.
Right.
And I think Hong Kong has a very tight-knit and genuine underground community, so I do like to visit here often.
One night in Shanghai, over a table full of spicy Sichuan dishes, a friend asked me, Eric, what do Americans really think of China? I laughed and said, good question, but here's a better one. What do Chinese people think of America? Everyone just paused. Then someone said quietly, we admire it, but we don't want to be it. That line sums up China's view of the West today. Admiration mixed with distance. For decades, the West meant success, freedom, and modern life. Older Chinese grew up believing anything foreign was better, but that era is over. Today's generation still uses iPhones, watches, Hollywood movies, but they want to live their own version of modernity. They respect Western innovation, but reject the idea that the West defines what's right. To understand this mindset, you have to look back. For a century, China was invaded, divided, and humiliated by Western powers. That memory still runs deep. So when Western media criticizes China, many Chinese don't just hear news, they hear echoes of history. That's why China's attitude toward the West is emotional, not just political. Then there's the generational shift. Their grandparents dreamed of going to America. Their parents worked with Americans. But Gen Z, they want America to notice them. They don't dream of leaving China. They dream of making China the place everyone wants to come to. At the core, it's about values. The West celebrates individual freedom. China values collective stability. Both matter. They just come from different histories. When Americans say freedom, they mean choice. When Chinese say freedom, they often mean safety, order, and dignity. So how do Chinese people see the West today? With respect, curiosity, and growing confidence. They don't want to copy. They want to coexist. And maybe, finally, that's how mutual respect begins. If you are curious about what modern China is really like, whether for travel, study, business, or just curiosity, come visit my website at ericonchina.com. You'll find real stories, insights, and ways to connect with me personally. Ciao.
Okay, so I would do my best to answer this question. And I would say capitalism, unfettered capitalism is why. You know, to live in a society like China, it takes out the unabashed individualism where you can pollute the land willy-nilly. You can own 1,005 mansions while other people go homeless. You can hoard wealth. You know, all this stuff unaccounted for. That's why I think people go to the U.S. At least that's why they used to. And in modern day, I know okay, I'm not gonna use any what's the word, hyperbole. I'm gonna say in real talk. I've met a lot of Chinese people who have immigrated to, or who had immigrated to let's say the US, Canada, Australia, etc. And they, renounce their citizenship of China and stuff like that. But they did it in like the 90s and early 2000s and stuff like that. And all of them are literally saying that they regret it and they wish that they didn't do that. And they want to come back to China, which thankfully, since they are like Chinese blood, they can, and they have family here, they can just come on a family visa. But they said if they could go back, they would not have moved to China or moved out of China because of the way the society is set up in the States and in Western countries compared to China in modern day. And I think people, no matter what system of governance there is, people have their own individual reasons of looking for something else. You know, there's this really nice saying. It's basically like the grass is greener on the other side, but I love the way it sounds in in Chinese. It's like 外国的月亮更圆, like the moon is rounder in other places, right? So, I think a lot of people had been propagandized, like the Western propaganda machine really it is powerful. They spend billions of dollars a year just infiltrating the minds of the people around the world. And all that stuff is very outdated, so moving to the West in 2025, people want to say, oh, but it has to do with not only their own individual reasons, but I think it has to do with the fact that in the West, you can basically do whatever the fuck you want. If you want to buy a fucking company and have children working for it, child labor and shit like that, and you want to pay people fucking 3 pennies a day, in America, you can do that. It's like literally going to the fucking wild, wild west. Like, in China, you can't do that type of shit. You can't, no. So the grass definitely seemed greener, but all of them come to, I'm not going to say all, people live their lives, but a lot of them come to be like, oh, this is what they told me was better. Buyer's remorse.
China might actually be a better place to live than the UK or the US. So a few weeks ago, I visited China with my girlfriend and with my family. I was super impressed with the infrastructure. The buildings in Shanghai, the architecture, the fact that they have the longest high-speed railway network in the entire world combined. And the bullet trains run at around 350 kilometers per hour. Another thing that I noticed was that there were hardly any homeless people or drug addicts. Literally in the UK, every week I see some homeless guy or some drug addicts on the train asking for money. But this is just non-existent in China. It was very safe to be on the streets late at night. And one of the reasons for this is that the Chinese government provides housing and gives jobs to these people who are homeless, right? Does the UK or the US actually do anything about homeless people? Nah. They actually just don't give much of a shit at all. Not to mention, in China, drinking culture isn't really a thing there, so there's less hooliganism, less debauchery. Eating culture there is huge, so food is cheap, it's incredibly affordable. So in many ways, China is one of the best places to live in the world.
Oh, it's interesting to see how quick the perspective can change when you travel. It broadens your mind. When you haven't traveled, you can think that the world you live in is the best of all. But once you travel, you also get to challenge your perspective of the world, and that's the beauty of traveling. So have you ever lived in China? Have you ever traveled to China? Like, what did you see? What did you observe? What are the pros and cons? We have said so many pros. We'll leave you with this video with few cons so that you also get prepared. Of course, it's not always rosy. So check this.
The hardest part about moving to China isn't anything that you can probably think of. It's how I can't communicate with the people back home. For those that don't know, China is 15 hours ahead of the West Coast and 12 hours ahead of the East Coast. So my family in the West Coast, I can barely talk to them. They're 15 hours behind me. So it's super frustrating talking to my mom or my sister because it's just the complete opposite day over there. And all my friends back in the East Coast, like when it's 2 p.m. here, it's 2 a.m. there. So when I'm getting up, starting my day, my boys are like fucked up in a club. And vice versa, like when it's 3 a.m. here, I'm fucked up in a club and I want to text them and drunk call them. They're literally like 3 p.m. It's like 3 p.m. over there and they're like in the middle of work. That's the hardest part, not being able to talk to the people back home because it's just inverse time zones. Like fuck all the other bullshit, like learning Chinese and the language and all this other stuff. It's literally just communicating with my people back home. That's the hardest part. Because it'll hit me randomly too. It'll be like 4 p.m. here and I'm just like done with work. I'm bored. I've edited all my videos. You know, I'm done for the day. And I'm just like, I want to talk to my people, you know? And I'm like, oh, it's 4 a.m. and 1 a.m. back home. Like it just, nobody's awake. So that sucks. Or like my mom will always call me. It'll be like 2 a.m. She's like, why are you picking up? I'm like, Mom, I'm asleep. It's 2:30 here in the morning. I love you, Mom. I know you watch all my videos, but yeah, the inverse time zones suck. But as much as I joke about this, I actually worry about it at the same time. Because I'm like, knock on wood, something happens and I need to contact them right away or vice versa. And we live inverse time zones. Like how can they contact me right away? Someone's going to be sleeping. It's also much harder for me too, because I grew up in Nevada and all my family's like in Nevada. So when I moved to New York and then Miami, it was only a 3-hour time difference from Nevada, you know, East Coast to West Coast. But China is literally 15 hours ahead of the West Coast. I didn't realize how crazy that actually was until I moved out here and then realized how difficult it was to communicate with them. Like 15 hours is a long time. That's all. I love you guys. Be safe. Peace.
Live in a country where the pros outweigh the cons, because in America, the cons outweigh the pros 100%. Y'all know that.